Deep Space Nine invests in a barrel of Aquanet. Bashir is into French ladies' feet, and O'Brien doesn't drink coffee in the afternoons. Or does he? Hey, everybody, welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Deep Space Nine, Season 2, Episode 12, called Armageddon Game. Now that I think about it, I don't even understand that title. It's directed by Weinrich Colby, who you know well, and the story is by Morgan Gendel. How are you, Cirroc?
I'm good. Armageddon Game, yeah. That's a kind of a weird one to say, right?
I know.
Armageddon we think of as like the end of life or the end of the world, the universe, I guess. But I didn't really see that. I mean, their culture, I guess, and their civilization with this disease that they were trying to fight, right? Was it a disease or something?
Yeah, I guess like a biological weapon or something that creates disease, but it certainly wasn't a game. I mean, maybe it's a reference to something that we're not privy to.
Could be. It could be something. I don't know. It was, there were a few things that I liked about the episode, and a few things I did not.
What did you think of the barrel of Aquanet, man? How do you feel about that hair?
The hair.
Those
You're
aliens,
the Talanian hairdos.
Yeah, they had the craziest hair, ever in the history of Star. It's like, hey, come, meet me at this thing, and they're like, okay, I'll be right over. I just got to do my hair. I'll be there in 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes. Nice hairdos, because it was noteworthy.
Yeah, that's
clearly they're all about their hair, and there's nobody balding in that culture because you wouldn't survive. You wouldn't be able to keep your status.
Survival of the hairiest.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that they put into that. You know that the makeup room, I mean, if you worked that week, which you were not in this episode, but if you did, you'd have forever nightmares about like the makeup room smelling like Aquanet.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I guess their culture means that you have to have a uniform hairdo, because it seemed like everybody had the same hairdo, right? The men and the women, they interchange between, I think, one or two hairdos. From what I saw.
It was like little variations of the same kind of like
the crown that is kind of the collar that's up on your hair, like your hair collar is up.
It almost looked like the bald aliens from Babylon 5. They had like this crest but I never watched Babylon 5, so I just know that it had
that particular show right now, are we?
Yeah, well, I know you're the avid Babylon 5 fan.
Yeah, no.
How about this? Do you know
which got beef with Babylon 5?
That's true. You know which Star Trek actor was a mainstay on Babylon 5?
No, tell me.
Walter Koenig. He played a character named Bester.
I'm going to give him a pass for that because Walter's an OG. I'm not going to go there with him.
You're not going to hold it against him.
No, I won't hold it against him. He's an OG, so he gets a pass. But anybody else, also not on the original cast.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Rule of Acquisition number 57.
What's that?
Quark says to them when he's giving them free drinks, he says, Rule of Acquisition number 57. Good customers are as rare as latinum. Treasure them.
Wow, that's a great one. I like that one. We're going to have to do the 57th rule when we spin this off.
Yeah, well, we can definitely, mention for sure that our supporters, our patrons, we currently have 142 of them. They are precious like latinum, and we treasure them very much. And for anybody that wants to be the 143rd or 200th, please go to patreon.com/the7th-rule and join this awesome family. We also appreciate the 3,000 or 4,000 people that are supporting us online and in various social media sites.
Absolutely. Couldn't have done it without you. We couldn't do it without you. And we do it for you and with you. So we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
So thank you.
And thanks to
Uh,
Quark for mentioning that.
yeah, that was a good little plug right there. That one slipped by me. I must have been on a looking away. So
Or grabbing whatever snack you're nibbling on.
I
What is
must,
that?
yeah, this is my snacks. I missed, I haven't eaten yet. So
What is
I've
it?
been running around.
Anything fun?
These are clementines.
Oh.
Yeah, these are my little clementine action right there.
Oh, my darling.
Oh, my darling. I like to eat healthy, keep it right.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was a few things. I actually drew a picture of that ship because I like that Talanian cruiser.
Yeah, let's see it.
No, it was, and speaking of other shows, there's my little rough draft of it. It's a sketch, but it's best I could do in the 30 seconds that they show it in the opening and throughout the little thing. But
That was a good one. That's maybe your biggest drawing so far.
it is my biggest drawing. I realized that after I started writing. I said, wait a minute, maybe it shouldn't have been so big.
Those of you
But
at home just listening in, Cirroc usually draws like a nice little sketch, maybe, about a couple inches big usually, but this one took up about 70 or 80% of the paper because
this was I love that thing. It actually looked a little bit like since we're bringing up other shows and other franchises. It reminded me slightly of was it the Deathwing fighter, the Star Wars Luke Skywalker's
X-Wing.
X-Wing. Yeah, remind me of the X-Wing.
Yeah, same shape. Yeah, same shape, but without the actual X in the back, but the same shape of the cockpit.
Right. And it looked really cool, actually. So I enjoyed that. The Solanians, man, I just couldn't figure them out, man. And it was weird because have they been talked about prior? And I mean, is this
not to my knowledge? I think they're a one-off race. I mean, we'll see if they pop up again in later episodes or seasons, and I just had forgotten them. But it feels like they're a one-off race.
Yeah, because they give very little background on them, right? So it's like, okay, they're just introducing a brand new race, and here they are with this like very critical problem that's like, we just met you, but we're also going to like save your whole society, right? All your existence, right? So it's like, this is a very rapid introduction. And then you would say to yourself, how do you know to trust these people then, right? If you just met them and you don't really engage them as we haven't met them before.
Well, as far as, I mean, maybe, and maybe this was mentioned in the intro and I just missed it, but it's entirely possible that, the Federation knows these guys forever, but we're just being introduced to them for the first time, because they're like, 1 to 200 races in the Federation. And then there are, a few hundred more that are not in the Federation, but that are out there. So, they know them. It could just be a race that they've been around and that asked for help, and we've just been introduced to them. But
Right.
I'd be fine if we never see them again.
I would be too. And I don't think we would because they did commit an act of war, as Sisko says, right?
They did.
You just committed an act of war by firing off on me.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was funny because when the guys came in there to bust it up and shoot everyone up, the first thing they said was, weapons aren't allowed in here. And I was thinking, yeah, that sign that says weapons aren't allowed never really stops somebody who's determined to use their weapon. Right?
One time, actually, real quick, when I was in France one time and I was visiting a family member at the hospital, there was a giant sign that said, in the lobby, it said no smoking, or ne pas fumer, ne pas fumer in French. You already know where this is going.
I do.
And sitting under the sign was a lady just smoking away with like 2 cigarettes, double fisting cigarette. And I was like, this is the Frenchest thing I've ever seen. And I should have taken a picture, but it was just so perfect that she's just sitting there, just her and the sign, keeping each other company in a hospital, no less.
In a hospital, yeah. That sign is for y'all. That's what she said.
It's just a suggestion.
Suggestion. But yeah, that's basically the sign. Weapons aren't allowed in this room. Didn't really hold water. But I liked a few aspects of it. I actually enjoyed the bunker. They were held up in like when Bashir and O'Brien escaped the wrath of the guns from blazing, and they
Yeah.
go hide into, I guess it's like a bunker or something,
Yeah, something. It was
some
cool. It
kind
was
of
a nice,
food
nice
supply
little set.
storage thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice set. I enjoyed the aesthetics of the set, the
Mhm.
kind of triangular concrete motif inside of there. I also like the lighting. I thought the lighting was real soft and kind of gave me a feeling like they were on another planet.
I hadn't noticed that. One aspect of the production design, or maybe this might be, uh, no, this was probably, I don't know if this was post production or if this was practical, but they, when they were replaying the video of watching them die or all disappear, in the bottom there's like the alien graphics that are showing, what's going on or this and that. It was really cool graphics because it was something we haven't seen before. It wasn't like the equalizer up and down, or it wasn't like dots going back and forth. It was just like a mess of, I don't know, static wrestling.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. And I thought that was also good. I actually thought that in the scene where they were reviewing that, I thought Odo would have like some kind of premonition about it by rewind that tape. Let me see. It looks like it's been spliced, or
mm.
there's a frame there that's missing. It skipped a beat. I thought they were going to do some kind of CSI detective work at that moment. So I was a little bit surprised how quickly Sisko accepted it and didn't question as much.
Mm.
Like they did it, like they eventually did later on, which is I need to go check it out. Read the signatures in the room and check out what's going on. I have to be there. I want to physically check the place out and investigate the scene of the accident.
You're right. Something like that is generally going to turn into an Odo episode. With Odo either working with Kira or reporting to Sisko about this investigation. But this episode was less about the investigation itself and more about,
The bromance.
yeah, and just it was more about progression of relationships. It was, the bromance between Julian and Miles, but it was also a little bit more depth into Miles and Keiko's relationship,
Hmm.
and it was a little bit more of Dax kind of opening up a little bit more
To
about,
Kira.
yeah, about Bashir too. That maybe it opens up a bit where she starts to kind of consider him or realize that she likes him more than she thought, or she feels bad, because she didn't read his journal. So this one was definitely more about depth of relationships, I think.
Yeah, and that was one of the good things that I think that we got out of this episode was those kind of relationships. The other one I want to point out, I think you missed, was Cisco and Keiko.
Yeah, because it's never been
Just
touched before. You're right.
I don't recall the two of them having any kind of serious interaction between each other, right?
Hmm.
And you got
Well,
that
wait, there
moment.
was the one moment where Keiko just appeared in Ops. Remember that? where Keiko,
Yeah,
where
holding the
Keiko,
baby, right?
Keiko and Molly they just appear,
Yeah,
materialize in Ops, like
I
out
think
of
that was the
nowhere.
Rumpelstiltskin. Was that the Rumpelstiltskin
Yes, it
episode?
was. Yes, it
Yeah.
was. I feel like
So
every
I try to
episode.
forget that. I try to forget that
I feel
episode.
like every episode has some kind of Keiko and Ops moment where you just kind of go like, "Wait,
Huh? What is that?
fine,
What's that
whatever."
doing there?
And they're just like, "Just go with it, dude. Just we
Just
need
go
it."
with it, accept it. Yeah.
What was today's Keiko and Ops moment?
Oh wow, that was
I think there were a few.
Keiko and I wrote down other things. Like I didn't think of a moment that was misplaced and didn't belong there. I never really looked at it that way. What was your suggestion?
I don't know. I mean, the hair, maybe. The hair was, they spent way too many hours working on that hair for
It
something that,
literally is
like,
the first note I have on the paper. So
yeah,
the
me too.
first thing I wrote down, was nice hair
First thing
because it was.
the first thing I wrote was coolest hair in Star Trek, and then after that I was like, nah, funniest hair in Star Trek.
Yeah, it was that much of like a little bit over the top,
Mm.
you know. because at first I was like, okay, that one guy has that hairdo, but then I realized, okay, they all have this hairdo. I know doing those wigs must have been a nightmare because they were like, these perfectly mounted things. Like you said, it was a whole lot of spray going on. But that I think that episode must have set the record for the most hairspray ever used in a single Star Trek episode.
I mean,
it's got to be up there. If we have to weigh out all the options, that one is the heavily sprayed episode.
And that was like 93. So was Aquanet still a thing in 93?
I don't know about Aquanet. I'm not a big hair products guy, but I'll give you a close up just to understand.
Yeah, it was kind of I feel like Aquanet was big in the mid and late 80s, especially. It was just like had this distinct smell of like hairspray where it's just like people would just explode.
Well, I remember them using the hairspray proficiently on the set and in the makeup trailer. I mean, the hair trailer,
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of that going on. That was touch-ups were with spray. So even after it was already done, they'd still have touch-ups right before we roll camera. So there's a lot of spray. We used a lot of spray.
I secretly hate that smell, man. I feel like I can't breathe.
Yeah. You know what? It doesn't bother me so much. I think I've gotten used to it now. There were some facials from O'Brien. I like O'Brien's facials. I wrote that down too. There was a moment where, there was several moments, but there was one moment in particular where Bashir was just irritating Brian as O'Brien was working on the things, and he's like, "Yeah, why don't you go and do that?" And then he turns around and rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, in his way that he's pretty much the best at. I think Odo is second to O'Brien as far as the facials after post facial conversation. Like,
I'm not touching that one.
No, it's like when after the guy's looking away and he looks away, he does the best. Like, oh god. Even though Odo's really good at that too, because he likes to do those moments, yeah.
It's funny. Chief, O'Brien was in Next Generation for the first few seasons before he went into Deep Space Nine. He wasn't one of the main cast. He was, used sparingly, kind of like Keiko or Nog or something like that, where he might have been in, 15 to 30 episodes or something.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember him really being like, the grouchy, grumpy kind of character that he came in.
Yeah.
So they might have adjusted the writing for him just to, make it fit more as the dichotomy to Bashir,
Possibly. The other thing that would make me kind of think that is that his disgruntledness may have emerged from the fact that he has to be at DS9. And I think they touched on that in this episode when they said, when Bashir says to him, your marriage isn't working that well. Something like that, right?
He called him out, man.
He called him out, which is like really taboo to just jump on somebody's marriage and bring that up. But he tells him straight up, like, look, everybody knows that your wife doesn't want to be here. And that kind of friction, I'm sure he doesn't want to be here. She doesn't want to be here. They're probably going back and forth arguing about that. I just figured that factors into his disgruntledness, right? And I haven't seen his Next Generation appearances, but I'm sure that'll happen in good time. But from what I know is that his relationship with his wife, it at least reveals that there's a friction about him being there, right?
Mm.
So that's always a possibility. I just like the fact that he's the guy who's just a reluctant, he's grumpy Smurf, And
that was my grumpy Smurf and jokey Smurf were my favorite.
And there's almost like him and Odo have the same level of, lack of enthusiasm when it comes to certain things, right? It's just a matter of, this is my job and I have to do it, so I'm doing it.
That's a good point. I don't remember ever seeing O'Brien going like, oh, all right, we get to fix this thing. This is exciting. What a fun, whereas like someone like Dax, for example, might be excited at the prospect of solving something or whatever.
Right.
Whereas Odo and Chief are more like, well, all right, time to do this darn thing.
Next thing up. Kind of like, your mechanic doesn't get excited to fix your transmission. But you do, because you're like happy to get your car back. But yeah, I thought that was funny. And then we got to I don't know if you want to save it for the second half, but we got to get into Dr. Bashir's horniness level.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's getting there. It's getting to the maximum level.
Yeah. So this time, what he says is that I think he said something about how he met this French ballerina, and he said her feet were exquisite.
Yeah, I wrote that same thing. She had the most exquisite feet.
Oh man, Bashir.
She had the perfect arches.
Good God. I don't remember the blocking in that scene, but I feel like at some point when he said that, O'Brien should have been like, dude, just stay like 2 feet away, dude. Like, just, you know what I mean? You're remembering this woman's exquisite feet and you're leaning up on me. Just go sit over there for a minute, have some water.
Yeah, and here he is. He almost died, right? They got ran up on by these guys with guns shooting. If they didn't make evasive maneuvers, they're dead, right? And the thing he's worried about most is missing the party. Man, that party would have been great. I would have got some action, And O'Brien's looking at him like, seriously? Yeah. Like, we're trapped in this place where
this might be part of the reason why O'Brien doesn't like him, is because he's just like, dude, this guy won't grow up. He's always talking about chicks. Meanwhile, I'm married. My wife's always yelling at me. My kid's always crying. And this guy's always talking about all the chicks' feet that he wants to lick. And he even says something where, what does he say? Chief says something like, hey, just because you're married doesn't mean you stop looking at women. Oh, that's what it was. Because Bashir says, hey, the ladies here are pretty attractive. Have you noticed? First thing, you're on an enemy planet. People are trying to kill you. And he's like, hey, you notice how hot the chicks are here?
Yeah. Man, we could have went to that party tonight. That party for celebrating us curing. I would have got some action. That's what he was talking about. And O'Brien's like, look, man, I saw the girls. I saw them too, but that's not what's on my mind right now. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get out of here and stop and not be stuck.
Bashir's response to that was, he says, I do think about them a lot.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
He just kept going.
We know, dude.
Yeah. We know. So I just thought that was just like, whoa, okay, Bashir, just another, like, somebody needs to just, he acts like there's no holodeck, like there's no holosuite. You can get your rocks off. I don't know. He's way too horny.
Do you think that's why he chose medicine as a career? Because he just always wanted to play doctor all the time? And then he finally was like, this might be an even better pickup line if I just do it for a career. If I just do it like the whole way through, man.
Well, the last episode, he was hiding her clothes, right? I think it was not too long ago.
Oh, yeah, you're right. That was just... Hey, I just realized we got to go to our first commercial break. I do want to say before we take our break that we did get a shout out. We always get like a little shout out here and there on the episodes for somebody that's not in, whether it's Nog or Jake or Rom. This time it was Molly. Molly made a mug. So that was a nice mention. We always get a nice mention or two every episode. We will be right back with the seventh rule. Hey everybody, welcome back to the seventh rule with Cirroc Lofton. We are reviewing episode 12 of season 2 for Deep Space Nine, called Armageddon Game, directed by Weinrich Colby, story by Morgan Gendel. I did want to say that we'll save it for the end of this segment, but at the beginning of every segment, we have like 3 little intro items.
Yeah.
Usually when I'm watching the episode, I take a note of something that would be a good little intro item. And sometimes we have some that hit the cutting room floor. They don't make it to the top 3. So at the end of this segment, we'll go over those the failed ones,
the cutting room floors. Okay,
the leftovers.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Anyway, where were we? That was kind of a long break. Where were we?
I think we ended on French girls' feet.
Really?
somewhere around there. But there was one thing I wanted to bring up, and we've touched on it a little bit earlier in the first segment, but it was about the Sisko and Keiko scene.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I really enjoyed the reverence and the poise that Sisko exemplified in that scene. There was a genuine, it felt real. It felt like the moment when, somebody has to tell somebody else that their loved one has passed away.
Yeah, that was the tough moment. Yeah.
And that was a tough moment. And I think Sisko handled it with real class, and it looked like a genuine moment for him and for me. I felt the the difficulty in his decision to have to do that, and how hard it was for him to do that. So I enjoyed that scene. I thought it was a real touching scene and had a lot of emotions for me.
That's a good point. It brings up kind of a broader thing that I was thinking about, which is the difficulty in bringing the emotion to an episode or a movie of someone being dead and loved ones mourning them, even though the audience knows that person is not dead. So it's hard to bring that level of emotion to the viewer if the viewer knows the person's not dead. So it has to come through in the writing, and it has to come in the acting. The actor has to portray that they're feeling as if it's real to them. So it's a really tough tightrope walk, because the audience needs to not be like, okay, we know they're not dead, who cares? The audience still has to take that journey with them. And when first we saw it right when they're told in ops, and with the reaction of Kira, the first thing she does, she's almost in a whisper, she can almost she's almost losing her voice, and she says that she wants to do a full investigation. She starts feeling she's a fighter, she wants revenge. Odo says a couple things. Then Sisko comes and he has that really rough scene with Keiko.
Yeah, and you're right about her being. She says something like, "I want to investigate the crime scene," something to that effect.
I want to see it. Yeah,
yeah, and Odo was like, "Yeah, so do I." And that's when I actually thought, okay, this was an Odo episode. Odo's going to be the detective. Turned out to be wrong, but when he said that, it was like, okay, he's all over this. He's going to find the flaw. He's going to make sure that he's going to find out that the tape's been edited and this and that. But it didn't turn out that way. But it certainly resonated as Sisko believed that they were dead. And he conveyed that, at least in that moment. And obviously, Avery Brooks, the actor, has read the script and knows that they are not dead.
He also saw the other guys on set.
Yeah, so he's right there with us in the audience, knowing that they're not really dead. But he conveyed that Sisko thought they were dead, and I felt that in the seriousness of the scene between him and Keiko. The other thing that I wrote down in my notes, which I thought was just like a line that I enjoyed, and we could talk about a little bit, but when O'Brien is paralyzed and he's on the floor and they're facing the death squad with the guns loaded and ready and execution style, there was a moment where O'Brien says, "Hey, wait a minute. Let me get to my feet. I want to stand up." And Bashir helps him up. He says, "I want to die on my feet." Mm-hmm. And that just I don't know why that resonated with me so much, but the fact that he said he wanted to die on his feet, it showed just kind of honor and respect for, himself. He knew it was the last moment. He thought he was about to go, but he didn't want to go out, like cowarding on the floor. He wanted to go out standing up like a man,
I thought you were about to quote Cypress Hill for a second there.
What's the Cypress Hill quote?
We ain't going out like that.
You got the voiceover impressions. I tell you what, you got you hit it right on the nail every time.
The other dude. I like the other dude who he's always like, "No, we ain't going out." You know that guy.
We ain't going out. Yeah. So no, that was like a stand for me, and I actually liked that moment. It was like, even though he was sick and he was semi-paralyzed, he still mustered up the energy to just say, no, hold on, let me die on my feet. You know, I got some type of respect for myself. You're not going to just shoot me over here in the corner.
And you're right. That is consistent with him as a character. Of just, he's prideful. He's strong. He's a fighter in his own way. You know, it comes out as being kind of curmudgeon-y in a lot of ways, but in this case, you know, it definitely wasn't out of character that he's saying, you know, if I'm going to die, you know, I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of shooting, you know, some poor, pathetic guy lying down. I'm going to die standing up and facing you, looking you in the eye.
Absolutely. You know, and there was one other thing. They called him Ambassador Cirroc, right? I think that was the name of the Kellerans, the Talani.
Check.
Yeah, I think it was
the Talani.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Cirroc.
Cirroc. Yeah. And when I first heard it, I was like, because people always call me Cirroc, right?
Yes, we've had a guest recently that called me that, who will remain nameless.
Yeah, but I get that a lot, though, and I'm so used to it by now. But I get the Cirroc. Hey, Cirroc. So when I heard Ambassador Cirroc, I was like, wait a minute. I had to go back and listen to it.
Now I got to share a name with this guy?
Yeah, I was like, boy, who else is stealing my name around here? No. So it was a Cirroc. But, you know, I just thought it was weird that they would introduce this alien race who basically starts a war with the Federation, right? I mean, Sisko's like, this is an active war, right? And then we don't hear about him again.
And, you know, I also I just remembered I was thinking about something a couple minutes ago when you were talking about how it could have been an Odo episode. I think we're noticing this happening a lot in the second season, where they bring in some element and then it just kind of goes like, you know, they always seem to do that once or twice in every episode, where they bring something in and you think, oh, this is going to be the storyline. This is where they go. And then, nope, that's it. And it happened with Odo a few episodes ago too, where we think he's going to solve the crime, but nope, it was the one with the lady in the wheelchair, where it should have been about Odo solving he's like, I'm going to solve the problem. I'll take care of it. And then, no, that's it. No, it's just the lady floating through space going like this that takes care of it.
Yeah. And we also saw it where Odo was on the planet taking the sample of life form that we thought with the hieroglyph that would be connected to the Dominion somehow.
And it had nothing to do. They didn't need the pillar. They didn't need the hieroglyphs. Odo, that was it.
And no mention of the Dominion. And so it was like, okay, so they teased us with something and it was a complete dead end. It was like, all right, that's not what it's about. So again, they've left us with this curve. And it probably because the writers have so much stuff they want to throw into one episode. Yeah. And they're like, all right, we can't cover everything, so we're going to...
They can always go back to it. They can always be like, hey, remember the hieroglyph on that pillar?
Yeah, or the Talarians, yeah, they're back, and they're at war.
And badder than ever.
And badder than... Now they have the weaponized, biogenetic weapons, so... I don't know. It's
the harvesters.
Yeah. That was my other question. What was that? The harvesters?
Yeah, the harvesters. That's what it was called.
Yeah, and originally I was like, all right, they're harvesting grain and harvesting food, but it had nothing to do with grain or food or harvesting anything. It was actually about this, like you said, some type of weapon, right?
Hmm. Like biogenetic weapon or something like that.
Yeah.
This was another little interesting Star Trek tidbit. And of course, this is just us nitpicking, but I can nitpick things to death. Like, number one is when a main character dies, Bashir is like, I am not giving up. I'm going to save this person's life. I'm going to check all my friends. I'm going to do everything I can, right? When non-main characters die, like in this episode, remember, they all get shot. And then Chief says, what about these guys? And Bashir's like, they're all dead. Let's get out of here. he's like, oh, you mean John and what's his face and who gives a shit? Yeah, I don't know. My medical opinion, they're all dead. Let's blow them.
Yeah, they're dead. We're not dragging anybody's or checking anybody's pulse around here.
Yeah, moving on. They're fine. They're, fuck them. But the other one was when Sisko and them believe that O'Brien and Bashir are dead. And they had that very poignant moment where he's like, contact the provisional government, let them know we need a temporary doctor. And Dax, talk to Starfleet, tell them that we need a new chief of ops and we need a new medical officer. That was really cool. And that was very poignant, and it was well written and well performed. But then my other thought was, they don't ever promote from within. Like, aren't there like 15 other doctors that are like, well, I guess now I'm in the running for the new doctor. Oh, no, they just brought somebody else.
Now they transferred what's his name for Ferenginar.
Yeah, they just never promote from within, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. You would think that a ship that big, they would have more than one person that could qualify for the job, right? It's like it doesn't really fit as far as that's concerned. Not to mention, you wouldn't think that that's the thing that they think about right away. Tell them we need a new. Yeah. They'd bury the guy first or something. Yeah. Right?
They're like, oh, is he dead? Yeah. All right. So, all right, chief ops and medical. Do we have? All right. Can you take care of that, will you?
Yeah, that's the first thing we need. We need that on deck.
I gotta go.
Not we're gonna arrange the funeral services and hold a tribute. No. You make sure you tell them that we need a replacement here right away. It's like I can just see you're at McDonald's and they're like, the fry guy just died. He had a heart attack. All right, call in a son. Like, what do you mean? Call in a replacement. We need these fries. You would think they'd call the ambulance first to pick up the guy.
I don't think he's quite dead. Yeah, he's dead. Let's go.
Yeah, just call in the next guy.
He's lazy. He's being lazy.
It's like they say in football: next man up, next man up.
Basketball too.
Yeah, next man up. I mean,
like the terracotta warriors. I remember the long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, Golden State Warriors basketball, where they're getting a lot of injuries, and their coach at the time said, they took them on a trip to China because they were having like an exhibition basketball game in China against the Lakers probably, and he went to bring them to the Terracotta Army, and he said, look. Some of them were like crumbled. And he said, look, this is like us. It's like rows of people. If somebody goes down, it's the next man up, and just got to have that mentality. We're not good. We're not great. We got a lot of injuries. Next man. Now, of course, the Warriors ended up being one of the worst teams in the league anyway, but it's a nice sentiment.
Yeah. And it's funny, while you were saying that, I was thinking about, I don't know,
something completely different.
Something completely different. I was actually thinking that Bashir would now use the fact that he died and Dax was sad about it to try to get some action from Dax. Mm-hmm. I figured, like, if he knew that Dax was, contemplating reading his journals and mourning him, that he would use that as a total play, like, oh, I heard you were sad. Would you like to go to your place or mine?
I'm back from the dead, Dax.
We can read my journals together.
That's a good point. I was thinking when we were watching the episode that I was looking forward to those reunions. I was looking forward to that moment when Dax sees Bashir and she's kind of like, she's so happy and relieved to see him. But because, she did, we didn't really see those moments. They beamed back on and they were fine. But right. You would think that she'd have that moment where she's just like, oh my God, I'm so happy you're safe. But then kind of like fight it a little bit. But then say, well, I've been fighting it long enough. Let me at least be a little nicer. And of course, Bashir would ruin the moment and be like, oh, why, yes, I am Dax. He'd go, Jadzia. That's it. But yeah, we didn't get those, and we
No,
didn't.
you didn't. You didn't get the. We didn't get the moment, the big hug moments, like I thought you were dead, and I'm glad you're still alive type of moment. There was a little bit of a closing scene with
Keiko.
O'Brien and Keiko, yeah, where she, the two of them exchanged their little conversation. Um, and it was funny because Keiko is actually a trooper too. When Sisko tells her, you know, O'Brien is dead, she's like, I want to see the video. She doesn't break out and faint or
She's a
start
fighter too,
bawling.
but
Yeah.
O'Brien will tell you she's a bigger fighter than he is.
Yeah. So she's like, I want to see the video. That was tough on her part. I thought that was
Also, which leads us into the great punchline of the episode, which was her saying this whole rescue mission was all based on her saying, wait a second, Miles doesn't drink coffee in the afternoon. And they're like, no, maybe he does sometimes. And, that's the same reason I don't drink caffeine in the afternoons, because we can't sleep at night then, already have problems. And he's like that too, I guess. And she's like, no, not my Miles. I
yeah.
know he would never. And they're like, well, maybe it's tea. And then she said, no, I test. I mean, she's being like super sleuthy about it and figuring it out. And it's all based on the fact that I know my baby, he would never do that. And then at the very end, he says, I could go for a cup of coffee right now. And she says, Miles, you never drink coffee in the afternoon. And he says, well, sure I do. And she says, you do? And all the Star Trek fans in the world laugh.
Yeah. Because that's literally the reason you got saved. And it turns out that you do.
But that was great. I thought that was a great punchline.
It is a great punchline. It also shows how couples think they know each other and they don't.
Good point.
I've had a lot of that in my life, so I know exactly that feeling. And O'Brien makes mention to another conversation I had when I was married, which is about your eyes. Your eyes belong to you. It's like, just because I'm married doesn't mean I don't look. And a lot of people think that, when you get married, that your eyes are on restriction. You have blinders on like a horse or something. But no, I have eyes. I still see somebody walking by wearing an outfit or whatever, or attracting attention,
A hot alien.
A hot alien. I mean, every man does. It's like, you don't give up your eyes because you get married. You give up the actions of going there and following through with talking to somebody or trying to pursue them. But just because you don't pursue them doesn't mean that you can't admire somebody who's beautiful or attractive. That's going to happen.
No Beyonce stories when you're married then.
No, I mean, I think a good marriage shares those kinds of stories openly and talks about who they are as a person. You don't want to hide who you are or your past from the person that you love. I'm not ashamed of the stuff I've done, even though a lot of it was stupid and sometimes I was insensitive to different things. But I can also say that I've learned from those things and I'm honest about it. I'm not afraid of it,
Good.
So
we only have a couple minutes left here. A couple quick points. When O'Brien and Bashir do end up getting caught at the end there before they're rescued, did you notice how easily that lady took Bashir's gun? When
I didn't notice that.
He's holding it like this, and he's like, "You're too late" to that one guy, and she just goes, "Give me that," and she just took Bashir's gun. And he's like, "Oh, man."
Oh yeah. When she's actually with her kill squad behind her.
Yeah, her kill squad. That's right. Yeah.
And it's funny because at that moment I was expecting Dax to come around the corner because it looked like Dax was looking for them, and I thought she would actually physically, find them and walk into the cave. It was a little bit convenient when they just beamed out of the situation.
Which one? When they beamed the two, or when the four of them beamed to the other?
Both beams were very convenient. They were very conveniently beamed. The first one, when they beamed the two, they're about to get executed, and they get beamed out of that situation. That was like, oh, okay. They set me up all this time for that, and it's just going to end with a beam out. So I was a little disappointed with that. I thought, for example, Sisko and Dax and the crew come behind that group that came in. So now they're surrounded themselves. So I kind of anticipated that kind of a closure. And then the last beam out was actually kind of clever. I like that.
Well, yeah, because that was a plan that Sisko came up with. That was a plan where they say, hey, because he was already thinking, he's like, wait, their scanners don't work either, right? So we knew there was something that they were going to plan real quick. Something was going to be pulled off. So he basically said, all right, ship's computer, go into a ramming speed in 10 seconds. And then goes acknowledged. And then he says, all right, 4 to beam out to this thing. Boom, 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 boom. Then that ship goes. Perfect.
Right.
That was cool. That worked.
No, that was a clever escape. I thought that was clever. It was smart decision making. And then if their grid isn't working and they can't keep track of what's going on, then that'd be the perfect time to make that kind of transition to the other ship and get away.
Mm-hmm. The writers need an escape and they only have like half a page left. Beam out.
I wish I had seen this scene earlier, because then I would have been able to use it to convince Aron Eisenberg that maybe his death scene in the episode.
We talked about that. Well, a few people actually said that, and I was saying that too. I was like, hey, in Star Trek, if you don't see the body, character is not dead. The character could have beamed out. Nog could have beamed himself out. The bad guys could have beamed him out. Section 31, because anybody could have beamed him out.
It could have played out just the way we saw that play out.
Mm-hmm.
So we just saw this in this episode where they're not really on the ship, but it looked like the ship got destroyed and they were on it. And they made it look like they were on the ship. So, like you said, if I don't see the body and I don't read the pulse, then there's any possibility. I actually wish I had seen this episode so I could have made that argument to myself, to Aron.
Interesting. Aron also made that argument. He was also the most vehement about well, maybe he's not dead. Maybe let's just hang on.
Slow down.
Their horses here.
Yeah. So that's one in the column for Aron Eisenberg. But yeah, overall though, I would give the episode, it was a decent episode. It went by all right, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't up there in the upper echelon of episodes as far as I'm concerned. But it was a decent episode. It wasn't bad. So I would give it about a 7.5.
Okay. So the Keiko and Ops moment sounds like it was the first beam out for you, where it just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. No, the first beam out that I thought was just like too convenient was when they were about to be assassinated, it's just like, okay, you're surrounded. He has to stand up on his feet. And I'm like, okay, they got to come up with something to talk their way out of this, or they're going to get themselves surrounded by guns themselves.
Right.
Instead of the easy beam out, it's just way too convenient in my opinion.
So shout out to Doc Annie and Marie Seagull, who predicted 2 out of 3 of our items.
And Marie,
beginning items, intro items. She mentioned the hair, and she mentioned Bashir's feet, but she didn't get the O'Brien drinks coffee in the afternoon. Now the three cutting room floor leftover.
Let's hear
items.
this. Let's hear this.
Since there are 3 of them, I'll present them like it's a beginning. Quark gives free drinks. Keiko plays amateur investigator, and Molly makes a mug. You can see why I went with the others, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to get Aquanet in there so bad.
Yeah. Well, we did cover
and the feet.
Keiko playing the investigator.
Mm-hmm.
We never mentioned Molly making the mug.
We mentioned that Molly was mentioned, but I don't know if we mentioned the mug. But it was cool that she did get a mention. It feels like every episode we get a mention from the characters that are not there. whether it's Molly or Jake or Nog or Rom or
and really, I wish our contracts were written in a way so that when we get mentioned, we get paid as well. Because
you should.
It would be nice, right?
That should be a royalty, man.
Yeah. Hey, mention my character. Then they wouldn't even mention you at all. Believe me, if they knew that.
That's true.
You wouldn't get talked about. So it's actually better that way. What was the first one that you opened with? It was
Quark gives free drinks.
Yeah, he did. We didn't mention Quark. He was kind of not that featured in these episodes. He had a small part.
Free drinks when to kind of console them, and that's when he mentioned the rule of acquisition. But I think it was the only one scene he was in. Yeah,
and he seemed also genuinely sad. He conveyed that as well. I felt that Quark was sad.
And if in true Quark fashion, they say, "Oh, you're sad, Quark." He's like, "Well, yeah, they were good customers and they paid their bar bills on time."
Yeah,
and they're like, "That's our Quark."
Oh, Quark.
Anyway, I think we've done a lot of damage today, and we should be proud. Everybody
still not really convinced on the Armageddon game, by the way. Still not really sold on the title. It may fit if you really stretch.
I have no idea where.
If you stretch it, it could fit, but it's not an easy fit for the
title. All right, so we'll stretch things and make them fit. And
oh God! Wow! All right.
No, we'll special thanks to all of you out there. Please stay tuned for the free for all. We're gonna have lots of fun and. Always remember the 7th rule.
With the jab.
It was yes, but I'm blocking because Rico's name did appear here, so he has shown up. Haven't you just weren't here yet?
Welcome back to the 7th rule. This is the free for all with Kat R. King, Homer Frizzell, Heather Jordan, Cirroc, Lofton. I'm Ryan T. Husk. Rico may or may not be joining us if he gets his internet figured out. We were talking about Three's Company and talking
Jack
about
the Ripper
Ferenginar and Jack the Ripper. Cirroc, what do you want to start with? You want to talk about Ferenginar? Which
let's do Ferenginar, which I was just comparing to London because it's just gray there all the time.
And that's how we got onto Jack the Ripper.
And that's how we got onto Jack the Ripper. Interesting. That looks like Ferenginar has like an Indian motif. It looks like one of the buildings I've seen in India.
It kind of also looks like the 20th Century Fox logo with the light.
Yeah, a little bit. They must have a new premiere. It's a movie premiere coming out.
Yep.
And Cirroc, you were saying about you were saying about how when you visit Ferenginar.
Yeah, when I'm there, I always wear shorts because it's just what I do. That's what Homer suggests: shorts and a polo shirt.
That's right. If you wear shorts, that means the bottom half of your pants won't get wet.
Great point.
The bottom half.
Tip.
Yeah.
Homer, what inspired you to have Ferenginar as your backdrop today?
Well, I was actually trying to find something from the next episode, and I wasn't inspired. This is what I had, and I might put up something else later. So it's it was an option, and it's timeless. Ferenginar.
Yeah.
And as we were saying before, if I remember correctly from the book about the Ferengi world, it says they have 17 different terms or words for rain, and that on that particular day it was just glibbering. If you guys know any of the other words for rain, let us know in the comments below. I only know glibbering.
Glibbering. Oh, so you want the Ferengi
that's a picture. That's a daytime picture, right?
Oh yeah. This is noon.
This is
yeah. It was glibbering mighty hard that day.
I remember.
It often glibbers in London.
It's globbering that day.
Oh, globbering.
Globbering.
Yeah.
Glibbering and globbering.
I don't think, Ryan, do not touch this. Do not touch this.
No.
I don't touch anything.
Don't do it.
And as Heather pointed out, the lights coming up look a lot like a movie premiere.
Yeah, 20th Century Fox.
You know, they're premiering Picard right now. That is.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing we were talking about off the air just now was Three's Company. Let's touch on it since it's my favorite show ever. And my idol is Jack Tripper. Cirroc, is it your
Not
favorite?
Jack the Ripper, but Jack Tripper. Come and knock on our door.
Come and knock on our door.
We've been waiting for you.
We were waiting.
You know, I used to
Yeah.
cover that song actually, but we made it like punk. So we fed up. We're like, come and knock on our door. It's pretty fun.
We've been waiting for you.
It was pretty badass. Yeah. We're joined by Rico Anderson. Rico, just in time.
Rico.
We were talking about Three's Company and who was better earlier, Mr. Roper or Mr. Furley. And I was saying how I originally thought it was Mr. Furley, but you and I discussed the brilliance that is Mr. Roper. Can you give us an impression of Mr. Roper?
Oh, well, I got to get this. Come on.
So Mr. Roper would...
Oh, yes. Wait.
Mr. Roper would crack a joke. And what was great about Mr. Roper is he would let the audience in on it because he would say what he said to his wife, and then he'd be like looking straight at the camera, letting you know.
Yes.
You know.
Breaking the fourth wall. Yes.
He was
That's
the best.
actually the opposite of what Ryan was just saying. That
Ryan was saying the opposite.
No, that's
like
exactly
it was
That was it. That was it.
Oh,
He was
No, that was it.
Yeah, that's
Mr.
what
The
Ryan
other one is
said.
Mr. Furley. Mr. Furley and Mr. Roper.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Roper would be like, that's not what you said last night, Helen.
Right.
Wink, wink.
Huh?
You hear how I made that zinger?
But you know what,
It was
Ryan?
like-
Earlier you
Did
did
you
the
get
Don Knotts face. We got to see the Don Knotts face. If you
Yeah,
get it.
so when Jack would come up and be like, you know, Mr. Roper would be like, the rent's late, you know, and Jack would be like, oh, well, maybe we can figure something out, or, you know, try to creep him out. And then
Oh
Mr. Roper,
Right.
I want to go away, big face.
Yeah, he used to bring his hands up like this, too. Like he was
I
going to
know
do some karate chops.
So Rico Anderson joins us all the way from Los Angeles. He's an actor from The Orville and The Mick, a bunch of other cool things like Star Trek Renegades.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
whatever.
Hello.
We meet again.
Great to be here. I know. Great to see all you lovely faces today.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Heather, how was your week off? We didn't see you last week for whatever
Yeah, what
reason.
happened? We
Yeah.
weren't around.
I don't know why. you didn't-
Uh-oh.
You know, you shouldn't introduce if you don't want to be called out. That's because
Uh-oh.
Ryan
Uh-oh.
didn't
You
send
shouldn't
me
have
the
done
link.
Oh.
Did he go through?
Oh.
One job. You got one job.
No. One job.
I texted him. He's like, "What do you think? We're an hour late." And I'm like, "You have been before."
No, yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wow.
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 With the head doing this thing.
Those are low blows
Yeah,
right
that
there.
one
And
gif,
after
you
that
know,
was
with the kid.
said-
It's like,
And after that was said, was there a look at the camera afterwards?
shots fired.
Yeah,
I was like,
He called me afterwards. He's like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what happened."
Well, to be fair, since Homer, you remember this, we also spent time during the free for all where we weren't recording, just kind of talking about business with the associate producers and the Cirroc Loftons of everything, and kind of, you know. So I wanted to catch up on everything that we discussed as well. You know,
Okay.
it wasn't just what we record, but it's also
That's
discussion.
right, Ryan. I totally remember that. Yes.
thank you.
He's saying
No
that
problem.
he was aware.
I was a part of those discussions with the APs and the Cirroc Loftons.
all of the Cirroc.
All of
Loftons,
them.
All of
Yes.
them.
All of the Cirroc
All of the
Loftons.
Cirroc Loftons were present.
Both Universe rock.
We are present.
We should have like any Jake Sisko like cosplayers come on and like just have a bunch of Cirrocs on.
Yes,
I would-
one child.
And all of them go, "I'm Cirroc Lofton."
That's what we're shooting for creation next year. This year.
I say a multiverse of Cirroc Loftons. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it'll be like Rick and Morty, but
Yeah, I knew. I
Ryan
was
and
totally Rick and
Cirroc.
Morty.
There you go.
so
Rick and
Rocky
Morty.
and Ryan. I don't know, something like that. Oh, and like
reverse.
I like
yes, yeah, universe. I like
Cirroc and Dorky.
No. Wow.
Wow.
No, you're Cirroc. I'm Dorky. That's okay.
No.
Well, this is true. I have to. Yeah.
Oh, well, Rico says yes.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
it's
So
not
there's one vote for
dorky.
yes.
Being
it
dorky,
balances
Ryan.
itself out.
So I hope we didn't miss anything last week, Heather. We're very sorry we missed.
I really
Very
wanted
excited.
to almost, get into this Picard, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody, for Homer
Thank you.
I
and for
know.
Heather.
I
I
know.
know. You
I don't want to
guys,
hear about the dog tags or anything.
I wanted
Nothing.
to be
I won't
there
talk
so
about the
bad.
dog tags
What the hell?
or
What?
the French wineries.
Oh,
Nothing.
man.
No, there's no wine. None. Not at all.
No.
Ryan's
go.
posting pictures of the Seventh Rule family, but I'm not there.
Well, we're just continuing on with the theme of you being absent. That's all. We're just trying not to
Okay.
confuse people.
See, whenever you're
You
having
were there
an
in
event-
spirit.
Yeah, whenever you're having an event where other people can't be there, you should just hold up headshots of people.
Yeah. See, there
Yes.
you need. Why wasn't I in the photo? Why didn't
I-
you just
Because you
Photoshop
weren't
me in?
there. I have zero Photoshop skills. Sorry. That's
Totally
it.
do it. He knows people. He knows people. Ryan, I'm calling you out. You
Mm.
can
Mhm.
You could have got it done.
Yeah. Who was the gentleman who made the poster, the new logo for the show?
Yeah, again, one job. One job.
Mhm.
I even paid tribute to you. I got Paris there in the background. But do you appreciate my efforts?
Oh, beautiful.
You hurt
Thank you.
Rico's feelings.
Is that Paris in the background?
We'll always have Paris. Look at that.
Oh,
Oh, wow.
Paris,
Wait,
la
wait.
ville
Hey,
lumière.
there it is.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. I love
Ah,
That is a painting that I found
Wow.
at a Goodwill of all people.
it.
Wow.
Like,
How much was it?
Raining in Paris too.
I
Now
got
I
it
think
for
of
like
Renee.
$10
It's
bucks.
glibbering.
And
It was globbering.
Nice.
It's clearly globbering.
Yes, it's globbering.
Looks
How
like
much-
an actual painting.
Operate? It is a
It's
painting.
clearly globbering. I mean,
It's not a
original,
print of a
it's painting.
painting.
It's not a window?
No. Ah,
what was
See,
that?
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
need this. I don't need this.
You weren't in on the private joke where we said it was. He said it's glibbering, and when it's like, I guess that's like sprinkling, and I said
Yeah.
it's globbering when it's heavy rain.
Oh,
I'm back.
Hey, Rico, how much was the Paris painting?
$10.
$10 bucks.
$10.
It was like
Yeah.
Marshall's.
Is it signed?
No.
Goodwill.
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 And it's like what is it when the paint comes out when it's the 3D type effect? It's paint. It's paint.
The
It's a paint.
dots? Are you talking about the dots or?
No. Like it's a real painting. It's a painting. Somebody actually sat.
That's the original.
Yeah.
That's the original, and it's just beautiful.
Is it acrylic? Is it acrylic or is it what kind of? Can you
It is
tell?
nice.
It's acrylic, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
So
lovely,
everybody at
lovely.
home, by the way, Rico's birthday, I think is what, March 10th? He likes
Yes.
paintings, French paintings.
Mm.
March 10th.
Do not
Speak
bother
it-
me with
10th of
painting.
March. That sounds like someone else's birthday I know. Who could
Who's
that
that?
be?
Who?
That's me. It's me.
No way.
No way.
March
Are you
what?
serious?
10th
March
of
what?
March.
Are you
1990.
a March 10th baby?
That was
No.
you, Rico. It was me. Remember, we just had
We
this.
did.
We just
Oh my
had this
God.
chat. That was.
Did you know that's also Mario Day?
It's
It's
Mario
also what?
Day. It's Mario Day. I like the
March
game,
10th
Rico.
is Mario Day.
Mario Day.
Yes.
Mario
Because
Day.
March is MAR, and then 10 looks like IO. Mario.
Okay.
Or 10.
Never looked at it that way.
I did see
Last March,
I did
Nintendo
see
put
the
out a
meme.
thing.
I did see the meme with the screaming lady and the funny cat, the funny white cat, and it shows the MAR 10 on like an expiration date, and she goes March 10th, and he goes Mario, or whatever. So,
I've never heard of that. So.
Well,
Well, Rico,
last
we also
year,
share
they
our
did
birthday with
something.
someone else.
Oh, we share our birthday with a few people.
Well, not anymore.
We're talking about somebody who
Osama bin Laden.
I was going to say good riddance. Yeah.
Oh man. Change the
There
subject.
ain't room enough for us.
May 4th is Mayflower Day.
Also,
Oh,
may
is
the
it?
fourth be with you.
yeah,
Yes,
it's
that's
Star
so
Wars.
That's what
Star
I
Wars
was going to
Day.
say.
And then
That's
like
what it is.
revenge.
That was
And
a
that's Revenge of the
little
Fifth.
curveball there to make sure you were on your toes.
Revenge
Homer
of the
knew.
Fifth.
Homer knew what I was talking
He did.
about.
Have
Yes.
any famous terrorists with whom you share a birthday?
Was that
Not
question?
anymore.
Okay.
Not anymore. Yeah.
That's right.
Homer, when's your birthday?
He gone.
Mine's June 7th.
Oh,
So I share it with Carl Urban and Prince.
Nice.
great.
Oh,
Those are
there you
great.
go.
Oh, that's nice.
Some good ones. I mean, there are
Prince,
others, but
yeah.
top two.
Speaking of which, how do you find
Uh-huh.
Will Smith hiding in the snow?
Okay.
You look for the Fresh Prince.
I knew it was something with I knew. I was thinking Fresh Prince.
It's a dad joke now.
Yeah. Well,
Can
he
we
said
just call it a
Prince.
dad
It
joke?
reminded me of that.
Oh wow.
I'd always said
Wah,
dad
wah,
joke.
wah. Hey,
Wow,
just
wow,
real
wow.
quick, not to
No, it's okay. Change topic. It's fine.
No, I was just gonna say, I did a little research just now, and March 10th birthdays are also Claire Underwood,
Yes.
Blair
Chuck
Underwood?
Carrie.
Claire Underwood.
Carrie Underwood.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Carrie Underwood.
Yeah,
I was thinking-
Blair
I thought you were trying
Underwood
to say
and
Right.
Claire Underwood.
I thought he was trying to say Claire Danes and Carrie Underwood, like mix them up.
They're all a mesh.
And
Chuck
Oh,
Norris.
they're all the same person.
Chuck Norris, he's a badass.
Norris?
Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris
yeah.
went to
Badass.
church with my parents when I was like really
Chuck
little,
Norris.
I guess.
And he
Emily
was-
Osmond, who I co-starred.
Yes.
Yeah, I guest starred on an episode of Young and Hungry with her. Did
Yes.
not know it was our birthday, but I
Is she one of the Osmonds?
Osment, like Haley Joe Osment.
Okay, then I'm
Oh.
getting all these names wrong. I'll
Yeah.
just shut up.
It's his sister, but yeah.
Welcome to
not-
my world, Cirroc.
Come on, I just combined Carrie Underwood and Claire.
Undercarriage, yeah.
Ah, shit. Look at the painting. Jeez.
Look at the painting.
All right.
French girls with nice feet.
Cirroc, since you're joining us.
That's like all commentary about the episode, right? That's the
Oh, yeah. That's
yes.
I don't know if you guys have seen the episode this week. It's called
Armageddon game.
Armageddon Game, and Bashir is just the horniest freaking guy. Like he's always he's like, oh, I was in love with this French dancer. She had the most exquisite.
You sound like
He does. He sounds
and
exactly like him.
And Chief is kind of like, all right, 2 steps back, buddy. You know.
Can we get Alexander on the show?
Yeah,
Can we get
that
him?
would be great.
Good. Yeah. Well, it's funny
That would be
because
good.
it's like the first season.
But you can't do that accent if he comes on.
Yeah, you cannot do that.
That'll be the last time he comes on.
Here's the question: was he written that way, or did he make his character that way?
I think he was
Well,
written that way.
He was
But
written
those
that way.
lines, yeah.
He was trying to bang
Check,
everything that
check
moved.
with Ira. Check with Ira next
I
time.
mean, he
I'd say-
could have.
Yeah, he.
We should
tapped
ask
into
him.
what it was.
We should
You're
ask
right,
Ira
Noah.
or ask him.
I mean, he could have delivered it a little bit differently, you know, but the lines were there. You know, the lines are she had the most. I mean, he could have tried to make it more medical, but like she had the most exquisite feet, you know. But then they would have been like, no. The director would be like, cut. Weinrich would have been like, cut. Dude, you're a hornball. Deliver it like a hornball.
Basically. And he was putting on the
Yeah.
Just go all in and go all in. Just jump right in.
You know, Bashir visited the holodeck. You know,
It seems like he
was
hasn't, and that was the problem. You would think he would relieve a lot of his frustrations out.
Tension.
Yeah,
He could conjure up anybody.
that's what I'm saying. So I don't know
Yeah,
why.
remember
like,
Minuet? Oh, that was TNG. Sorry, that was
Rico.
Minuet. Remember Riker?
Rico, who would you conjure up in the holodeck? Or should I not be asking this question?
Oh God! That's the
Wow.
question of the day.
Wow.
That's the question of the day.
So private.
Who would you conjure up?
Conjure up.
Oh God. Really?
In the or who or what would you conjure
Oh
up? in the
God, you
holodeck?
went there. You had to go to the what, didn't you?
I mean, you
was
never know.
Little no.
We got
Rico.
us doing those.
you're right.
Liz.
Who?
Rico, you're the only one that has to answer this.
I know.
you.
I'm
One person
like,
question.
and I'm
Homer
like,
will not answer it, and I will not either. I plead the fifth on this one.
you know,
And
this
we're out of
is how you
time
treat-
anyway. We only have time for one.
Oh, look at the
Oh.
time.
And this is how you treat
Perfect.
weekly guests. Okay.
Welcome
I'll,
to my world. Welcome to my world.
okay. Well, I'll just say I'll throw out. Wait, does she have to be from Trek or
Anybody.
Whoa.
No.
You know, I always love me some Halle Berry. So
There it is.
Mm.
Actually,
And there it
we
is.
have a little bit of time. You know who I would want to see in the holodeck is Dr. Martin Luther King. I think it'd be
Oh.
fascinating to meet him. I don't know, Rico. I don't know why you have to turn everything into something horny. I meant it very seriously, and I think he'd be a wonderful.
well, I'm the
Of
only
course you
one
did.
out of
Yes,
the
you
6 of
did.
us who
You sure
would-
did.
Right. Okay. So I'm the horny.
Also,
Timely mention.
it's
I'm the
MLK
hero.
week, so I just thought that was be a great person to talk to. Rico and I were just talking about him last night.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, then I get to do the same thing.
Yes.
No, you can do whatever you want with it.
What? No. What? No, me? No. Heather?
Heather, look at Kat. That was great deflection there.
Yeah, Heather.
Heather, what about you?
Nope. Nope, I'm a lady.
Homer was thinking pretty intently. He's
I
got
never kiss and
I
I never
do.
hollow kiss and tell.
Ladies like to conjure up people in the holodeck.
Oh, it would be dirty, but I'm a lady.
Oh, there he is.
Homer would bring Nog. I had a feeling.
Yep. Hi
Bring
there.
him back. Yeah.
Spend one more
Nice.
afternoon hanging out with Nog.
Now, which outfit is that?
This is the early one. So I think it's probably like first season.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
Playmates, and he comes with Rom.
Aw.
He's got the cheeks too. It's so
He's got the
cute.
cheeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty accurate there, actually.
Does he
Okay,
have the
I'm gonna
nose?
go
No,
with
it's,
the
it's
nose.
like an inch or two too short, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh.
He's kind of short as you compare him with Rom.
Let me see Rom's face on the close-up on Rom's face.
Daddy's son.
Well, I think they got Aaron. They got Aaron better than they got Rom. They captured Aaron's face better.
Yeah, I think so too.
Very much.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's closer to that's closer to Aaron than Rom is to.
And let's see Rom's face again. Hey, brother.
Looks more like Quark.
He does.
Or
Yeah.
He-
Brunt.
yeah.
Looks like
Like
Brunt.
Quark.
He looks like a cousin between them. He looks like a cross between a Quark.
The one they don't speak of.
Yeah.
We don't talk
Oh,
about it.
well, we
Well,
don't
that-
talk about
The
it.
one who
horn
shall not be
honking was
named.
our time being up.
Yes,
Sorry to
yes.
say. But thanks so much for calling in, guys. Rico, thanks for another horn honk. We appreciate it.
Did you say horn dog?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I heard Horn honk.
Maybe.
Of course
Heather
you did.
Jordan, Homer Frizzell, Cat
Of course
R.
you did.
King, Rico E. Anderson, Cirroc Lofton, for Russ Hasledge, for Aron Eisenberg, for everybody else in the Seventh Rule family, Imo Radka, Rex A. Wood, who's traveling. I think he's in like Kentucky right now. Dennis Koch and Eve England. Thank you all. And always remember the Seventh Rule.